All right, now we're talking. Now we're talking. You know, you thought this was Elbaf before, but I'll tell you something. You don't know Elbaf. This is now Elbaf! Yeah, we got Thor's hammer, we got a cloak, and we got One Piece chapter 1131. You want to know what the title of this damn chapter is? Loki of the Realm of the Dead. Yeah, is that not the most Elbaf chapter title in the history of manga? I have every single volume of Vinland Saga over there, hardcover edition, and there's not a single chapter title that's more death metal than this. Loki of the Realm of the Dead! Let's go! Cover page. Oni Child Yamato in the Holy Inari Shrine Pilgrimage, Volume 18. Well, it looks like that our adventurers have had a katana stolen. So, they all rush off to find the person that stole it in the night. We have Yamato riding on Koma Inu, giant dog. We also have Tama with Speed. So Speed is joining the party for this one. Really good, because they need a long-range fighter, and, you know, Speed is, you know, she has the bow and arrow and everything like that. One thing to keep in mind, this was something we found out really like at the tail end of Wano about how Tama's Kibi no Mi works, her Dango ability. So she feeds the Dango to various animals. It also works with Smile users. Does not work with Zone users though. That's very important. And they become her servants, right? And that was a big deal at the Battle of Onigashima. At the very end of the arc, she's just like, oh yeah, after about a month, after like one full moon cycle in the sky, they all return to normal. And some of the animals that I fed my Dango to, they will like return to the wilds of nature, and some of them stick around. So clearly the Koma Inu is sticking around. Okay, that's fine, the Koma Chio. And Speed though, I imagine it's been about a month now. It's been over a month, and they are still choosing just to, you know, hang out with Tama and follow her orders. Not really like strictly follow her orders, like, you know, like the way they are when they're under the effects of the devil fruit, because when you're under the effects of the devil fruit, it's just like you see the user as your master and you unquestioningly do whatever they say, right? And I would also imagine it depends on the user of the fruit and how like cruel you are to the animals. Like if you're a really evil person that has the power of the Kibi no Mi and gives it to an animal and is just like brutal to them and is making them do like back-breaking labor and is like hitting them and whipping them and just like, you know, keep doing work, you know. If that was the case after that month is over, I'm sure they would turn on the master and like devour them, you know. But Tama is pretty nice, you know. She's not giving them orders to like hurt themselves or anything like that. So after the month is over, you know, Speed, I guess, is like, oh, okay, I'm not under the effects of the devil fruit anymore, but I'll still hang out here. And so it's like, okay. So they're going after the person that stole the katana and also the kidnapper of everybody in the Kibi region. We still have no idea who that is, but we'll see where it goes. All right, so we continue where we left off. If you guys need a recap, Luffy found Loki, the actual trickster god, chained to a giant tree. We don't know if he's the actual trickster god, but he is the accursed Prince of Elbaf. That's in his title card, so we know that's true. Alright, so Luffy is, you know, in this snowy mountain region, stumbles upon Loki, the giant guy, chained to a tree. He's like, I am Loki. I am the one that will bring about the end of the world. I'm the sun god. And Luffy is, of course, like, oh, cool, my name's Luffy. Gonna be future king of the pirates, just letting you know. And this is great, because Loki is, like, trying to have a conversation with Luffy. Luffy just found out that he's in Elbaf. I mean, like, it's pretty obvious just from, like, the giant castle and the giant rope and the sun god you had to escape back in the Lego City was a giant, and you see, like, a giant canopy above you. I mean, like, the context clues are definitely there, but then again, the context clues were there when they awoke in the giant city. And then again, I guess that was technically Elbaf, as it was in the city limits of Elbaf, right? Anyway, so Luffy is just like, all right, yeah, Elbaf, yeah, I knew this was Elbaf. Man, we've been wanted to come here for ages. This is great. And Loki is just like, oh, okay, yeah, you wanted to come here for a while? Hey, that's nice. Anyway, I have something to say. Oh my God, I can't believe this. I wonder if Usopp is gonna know about it. It's like, who's Usopp? What? Listen, I have something to say to you. Oh my God, this is crazy. Strongest country in the world, huh? This is where war was born? War was invented in Elbaf? That's incredible. He's like, for real? It's like, man, when we were on Dorian Broggy's ship, that was the first time I was really surrounded by that many giants. I mean, I had met some giants before that and everything like that, but I don't know. And then Loki is just like, okay, all right, shut up, I'm talking. Loki has been chained to this giant tree, we're gonna find out, for 6 years. Hasn't had a lot of people to talk to. There are some people and some animals that hang out with Loki, right? But he's trying to, like, he sees Luffy wandering into the snow, and I'm sure Loki, I mean, we're gonna see something later where Loki's gonna be fully aware of Luffy's potential and what he can really do with, like, Conqueror's Haki and everything like that. But right now, I'm sure Loki probably views Luffy as somebody, some random pirate that wandered into the island that he could take advantage of, that he could, like, manipulate to be like, all right, how am I going to fool this pirate, this human, into finding the keys and freeing me from this fucking tree? You know, so he's trying to beguile Luffy, but Luffy's just so excited. He's like, wow, this is Elbaf, that's crazy, I love this place, I can't wait to see Usopp, oh man, this is gonna be cool, there's giants over there, that's crazy, what's up in the giant tree? Okay. And so Loki eventually just lets out a giant yell. Like, hey, you know, shut up when I'm talking to you. And so that shout, like, sends reverberations throughout the entire lower level of the island, you know? Like, all the trees get, like, blown back a little bit. And the wolves that we saw earlier when they were underneath them, the Straw Hats were on that rope bridge with a bunch of wolves down there. The wolves are like, and it's like, you know, okay? And we see Loki's introduction card. The Accursed Prince of Elbaf, Loki. Special bounty 2.6 billion. Alright, I gotta say right now, Loki is going to be the giant that's going to end the world, and he only has a 2.6 billion bounty? Oh my God, alright. Either the world government is messing up, or Loki is blowing a little bit of smoke up our asses, alright? I'm just saying here, alright? Blackbeard has a higher bounty than him. Buggy even has a higher bounty than this guy. Mihawk's got a higher bounty than Loki. You know, Kaido and Big Mom had a higher bounty. Obviously, Roger and Whitebeard had a higher bounty. Akainu has a higher bounty now. We learned about that from the interview that Oda did, that Akainu has 5 crowns on the Cross Guild. He's like 5 billion berries. Luffy even has a higher bounty than this guy. Kid has a higher bounty than Loki. Eustace Captain Kidd, higher bounty than Loki, the accursed prince, ender of the world. Let me ask you a serious question, and I just want a yes or no answer here. Does Eustace Captain Kidd have the ability to destroy the world? No, and yet for some reason, the government decided to give him a higher bounty. Huh. So, yeah. Now, it's special bounty, though. So I don't know what that indicates by special bounty. Is it like a situation like with Sanji, where, you know, only alive, or maybe Loki's would be like only dead? Does the government know about this prophecy? The government probably issued him this bounty because they're aware that they probably don't buy into the mythology of Elbaf, like Ragnarok, end of the world, and all that stuff. But they do believe in devil fruits, and they were probably aware, the government was probably made aware years ago, like hundreds of years ago, there's a really powerful devil fruit that exists in Elbaf that is guarded by the king of Elbaf. Okay, maybe the king doesn't eat the devil fruit, maybe they just keep it, maybe they do eat it, and that's maybe their deterrent, because the world government is not part of Elbaf, you know, that's not how that works, right? Some giants will leave and become part of the Marines, but I think Elbaf itself is a sovereign nation, right? It's not like allied with the government or anything like that. So maybe they were aware of like, oh yeah, there's this really powerful devil fruit that exists in Elbaf. If the giants ever decided to like use that power, then that would be really dangerous. That could end the world. That could destroy a lot of civilizations. But luckily, for the last 800 years, nobody has eaten the fruit or nobody has utilized the power of the fruit. Until Loki, because Loki killed the previous King Harold and then consumed it. So Loki has the power, and we find out that they are in fact Karyoseki. They are Sea Prism chains that are sapping his power, and he's chained to a tree, okay? So maybe the government found out about that and issued like, okay, Loki's not really a pirate, but or a revolutionary, honestly, or really a bandit. You know, he didn't even get off his own island, really. He was chained up before he had the opportunity to do that. But he is a threat, and his demeanor seems to indicate that he would be a threat to the world government, so they issued him a bounty. We don't know much more about that, but we'll find out about that as we go. He mentions again, I am the sun god from all the legends we passed down on this island, and you don't speak unless you're spoken to. And of course Luffy doesn't, is like, oh, okay. Now, Luffy doesn't give a shit. He's, you know, Loki's trying to act all high and mighty while he's blindfolded and chained to a tree, so it's like, whatever. And it's like, whoa, what do you think of my predicament, human? Luffy's like, I imagine it's just like, it goes quiet, and then just the wind is blowing, and then Luffy is just like, you got caught. You got chained up. And Loki's like, ah, yes, how very observant of you. I didn't notice. Yeah, no shit, I got chained up. All right. So here's the deal. They wanted to sweep me under the rug. They actually wanted to execute me, but I was just too badass, all right? Can you believe it's been 6 years, 6 years already since I've been chained to this tree? And, you know, Luffy's like, 6 years? 6 years? Okay. 6 years, don't know if this is relevant or pertinent, probably is. That was when Shanks became a Yonko. Was 6 years ago. That was the official timeline when Shanks decided, well, didn't decide. We don't know what happened. We don't know. Maybe Shanks woke up one day and he's like, you know what? I think today's the day I'm going to be a Yonko. All right, and then he went off and did something and he was a Yonko. It was like whenever Shanks decided it was time, he became a Yonko, right? So we don't know the full story about that, but considering Shanks plays a very pivotal role in the story of Elbaf, and he was here earlier and he's mentioned in this chapter quite a bit, I'm going to assume it had something to do with Loki. All right, I'm going to assume that maybe even Shanks like teamed up with the Giants to help chain up Loki. And maybe every once in a while Shanks stops by the island just to make sure, like, is he still chained up? Yeah, he's good, he's fine, we're checking on him, but he's okay. He's like, alright, he ever gets free, let me know. It might be something like that, who knows. So he mentions, like, I am the strongest giant in Elbaf. I represent the great strength of our kind. However, I am bound with sea stone chains to the treasure tree Adam! Alright, so Elbaf's tree, Yggdrasil, it's not called Yggdrasil, it is the treasure tree Adam, right? This one is like, I mean, I made a video about this like a couple weeks ago, but this is something that like, hey, there's a giant tree in Elbaf, and there was a giant tree that was mentioned to grow in a war-torn country that was never destroyed by Frankie. You can connect the dots on that one pretty closely, okay? Also, I mean, it's not completely on the opposite end of the world, but they are getting close to the opposite end of the world from the Sabaody Archipelago and where the mother tree Eve is. So I thought it would be pretty cool if it's like, you know, one side of the planet is Eve and then on the exact opposite side is the Adam tree. Maybe where they're roughly close to that. I mean, we don't know how far the red line is, but I imagine they're going to bump into that thing sooner or later, right? Because the Sabaody Archipelago wasn't like exactly next to the red line. It was a little bit, you know, further back, but still. So who knows? Maybe. This is the tree that the wood came from where the Sunny was built, okay? So the idea is every now and then some of this wood ends up on the black market, and that's where Frankie purchased it way back at Water 7, and he used that material to build the Sunny, okay? So I don't know if it's like every now and then giants will rip off part of the tree, or maybe a branch from the tree falls and the giants carve it up and sell it. It's probably frowned upon in the country to like wound the tree, because it is the pride of Elbaf. Literally, the island itself is supported on its branches, okay? So it's probably a very sacred thing to their religion, right? So, yeah, it's Treasure Tree Adam. And he's like, okay, I'm chained up with Karyoseki. I can't, like, my strength is sapped. I can't use my full power. So he's like, I have a proposal for you, Loppy. So this changes depending on the translation. I saw Rhodey in another one because, you know, Luffy's name can sometimes be said as, like, Roofy. So, you know, and he's like, Rhodey, because he just said it once. He's like, I'm Luffy. I'm going to be king of the pirates. And Loki is up there and he's just like, I have a proposal for you. What was your name? Loppy? Yeah. And it's like, hey, it's Luffy. I'm like, oh, all right, or whatever. Who cares? You want to make a deal, Luffy? You want to make a deal with the giant trickster god, all right? So we see a view of Loki from above. One thing to keep in mind, what we originally assumed to be an axe, I didn't go back and check. Maybe it did. Maybe it was an axe back in the last chapter. It's just the weapons change again. Maybe it's a thing in the Lego City all over again. It's very clearly not an axe in this scene. Loki has a hammer. Okay, now, it's not this kind of hammer with like a short like handle. It's a giant hammer, so the handle is huge, you know, like the handle of an axe or like a spear or something, right? And it's chained to his back, and he does clearly, it's a hammer, okay? So, I'm guessing that unless we find out, I mean, I suppose Hajrudin is Loki's half-brother. So, or I guess maybe just real brother, we don't really know that. But I'm assuming that Loki and Thor are gonna be like the same like character. Like Oda's maybe taking both of them, throwing them into one character. I guess you could say Hajrudin is the Thor archetype. Maybe, maybe not. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if the hammer on Loki's back is not actually called Mjolnir, it's called Thor. Wouldn't that be funny? You know, like Loki is like, I'm Loki and this is my hammer. Thor, you know? Also, Luffy has used a Thor elephant gun before to take down Shinjao back at Dressrosa. So I'm curious on how that all ties together. Like the word Thor exists in the One Piece world without Luffy having ever visited Elbaf, and I don't think Luffy ever cracked open a book on Norse mythology. I don't know, maybe Luffy went up to Robin and was like, hey Robin, I have this new technique where I make elephant gun and then I punch and static electricity comes out. It gets all shocky. What do I call it? And Robin is like, you could name it after the Norse god of thunder, lightning, and rock and roll. Thor. I'm like, Thor elephant gun. That sounds good. Thanks, Robin. Maybe that's how that went down. I don't know. Anyway, it's clearly a hammer, okay? So this is Loki's proposal. This is Loki's low-key proposal to Luffy. All right, he's like, hey, you're a pirate, right? All right, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna undo my chains and let me go. The key is probably somewhere up there in the village. Somewhere. And in exchange, I will use my immense godly powers as the sun god of mythology, and I will wipe out any pirate crew that you want me to. Anyone. Doesn't matter. One free ticket. You get the golden ticket into the chocolate factory. I'll just wipe out an entire crew. All right? And that's the deal. What do you say? And then off in the distance, Luffy begins to hear something. He begins to sense something maybe with his observation hockey. Something's moving about in the forest, okay? And Loki explains, he's like, oh yeah, that. Well, you see, this place you're in right now, I don't exactly know how you found yourself here, but this is the realm of the dead. Oh my god, that is so metal. This is the underworld of Elbaf. The darkest, coldest place furthest from the sun, where giants and humans alike are imprisoned and killed. If you go over to that snow over there and you dig over the snow, you're gonna find the bones of giants and humans all over the place. Alright, so once again, I guess they probably do not care about Rhodes Lego City now. Considering that was also a giant prison, now this all makes sense. This entire lower region of Elbaf, where we see all the mountains and the snow, that's not a place where giants just chill out and live. Also interesting, because when Big Mom was dropped off by her parents, you know, in Operation Beached Whale way back like 60-something years ago, I always assumed the Lamb's house in that village was on the lowest tier of Elbaf, but because that's where she was dumped off at. But no, I guess that village was very sunny and happy, so that village was probably up in one of the canopies of Elbaf. That's where the Lamb's house was and everything like that, okay? So just keep that in mind. I guess, yeah, that's the situation. It's a place no one dares approach. And so we begin to see, in a really cool spread, we get to see a bunch of really strong, like, kaiju-sized animals emerging from the tree line, okay? And we saw all those mountains down there, and Loki explains that each one of these mountains has a different boss, and they're pretty damn strong. In fact, I've been friends with them since I was a little kid. So, you know, if you do anything to hurt me, they might get pissed. Who knows? And out of the woods, this is so cool. We see like a King Kong, like giant ape emerging and like picking up a tree and just like, you know, not just a regular tree. This is an Elbaf tree, right? We see a huge snake emerge and just bite into like a rock and just destroy it in one bite. We see a mammoth, we see the snake, we see a black wolf with like a fire mane emerging. We see the gorilla, we see a polar bear. The polar bear looks rather like happy and chipper, actually. The polar bear is smiling like, hello, I'm just a bear. How you doing? You know? So we see these giant animals emerging from the forest. Luffy does not care. Luffy is just like, wow, this really takes me back. Because Luffy literally trained on an island exactly like this. Like, that gorilla kind of does look a lot like the gorilla on Ruskaina that Luffy probably named the King Kong gun after, right? So Luffy has been used to being dumped off in wild islands covered in snow, crazy weather, fighting giant kaiju animals. Giant kaiju animals. That's kind of redundant, but whatever. So Luffy's not intimidated at all. He's just like, wow, okay, this takes me back. I remember this. Oh, okay, cool. All right. Loki is, of course, like, oh, I don't know, I wouldn't take them lightly. They're pretty strong after all. We also see some humans emerging from the forest as well. We don't see their faces. They're covered in black cloaks, wearing gas masks, and they're carrying, like, swords and sickles and, like, lanterns, and they're, like, emerging from the forest and just like, ah, yes, Master Loki, hello. And, you know, Loki kind of shit talks them and just like, ah, yes, these humans, you know, they were also thrown here as prisoners of Elbaf. You know, they were like intruders or whatever. They were criminals and they're thrown down here in the underworld. Their only salvation from being devoured is wearing these putrid smelling cloaks. You know, they smell as shit and they walk around like a bunch of zombies. And then the humans that are like, oh, come on, Master Loki, that's a little bit mean. We don't like to wear these shit-smelling robes, but if we don't, we're gonna die. I'm assuming it's like a thing in like The Walking Dead. It's like, oh, we gotta cover ourselves in zombie guts so the zombies don't kill us, you know? It's like, all right, we gotta cover ourselves in these shit-smelling clothing so the giant wolf doesn't kill us. You know, hey, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive. You're in the underworld in Elbaf. Their lot in life is not the best, okay? But they're like following Loki because it's like, I mean, Loki can't like kill them because he's chained up. So if nothing else, I'm sure Loki has tried and manipulated these humans to try to free them, but they're just like, I wouldn't say they're regular humans because to even end up on Elbaf to begin with, you're gonna be on in the new world in the Grand Line. So, you know, I'm thinking these are like ex-pirates, you know, maybe they're even members of Kid's crew. I don't know. Maybe Kid is one of them. I don't know. Maybe Killer's in there. I don't know. We see like a sickle kind of blade and some swords. It's kind of like Killer. Maybe Killer's in there. Who knows? But they're like wandering around and maybe, you know, Loki was trying to get them to go up to the village and free them. He's going to take every opportunity he can, obviously, and they just aren't strong enough to get up there and do that. And so he's like, all right, well, I can't do anything about it, and as long as you wear those clothing, the animals probably won't kill you. So I guess Loki has like a little cult that's following him, and that's basically it, right? They come out and they're like, hey, we apologize, Master Loki, for fainting earlier. Who would have expected him to show up? Red-haired Shanks. So I would say they're weak enough to get knocked out by Conqueror's Haki, but once again, this is Shanks' Conqueror's Haki here. Shanks' Conqueror's Haki in Film Red was strong enough to knock out the Vice Admirals, or some of the Vice Admirals. So pretty powerful there, pretty strong Haki. So even if these guys were fairly strong pirates with like bounties, being knocked out by Shanks, that still doesn't, like, it's not you guys, it's Shanks for real, okay? So Shanks was here, and we know he was here because we saw him at the bar. Maybe he stopped by, maybe the guy he was referring to, like, oh man, I stopped by to see if somebody was dead. Maybe that was Loki he was referring to, right? So he stopped by to check on Loki really quick, then he went to the pub to get a drink before he left, and that's when Kid showed up, and then the railgun, and then he had to use Kamusari, and it was like a whole thing, right? Maybe that was the order of operations there. So Luffy, though, meanwhile, is hanging out with all the animals in the forest. We just cut to Luffy, the giant gorilla is just holding him up, and all the other animals are just kind of like hanging out with Luffy, like, oh, like, you know, the wolf is just like licking him, and it's just like they're like just they're pets. Okay, they're happy little pets just to be there with Luffy. And Luffy's just like, oh, guys, you guys are so good. You're a good doggo, you know, kind of thing, right? Because Luffy, he's already done this before. He's trained on Ruskaina with animals just like these, and he just exerts a little bit of his will, of his conqueror's hockey, and the animals are like, okay, you know, survival of the fittest kind of situation, you know, the king of the jungle, you know, you are clearly stronger than us, so we're just going to obey you. Kind of the same way they obey Loki, right? And so, the humans there are like, what? He tamed the mountain beast? And Loki's even like, who the hell is this kid? You know, he has that anime moment where it's like, you see how powerful the main character is. You see the main character exert main character energy, and you're like, this guy, who is he? You know, like, you have that moment, right? And, but, Luffy's like, you know, hanging out with the animals. He's like, wait, Shanks? Did you mention Shanks? Is he here? And then Loki... gears start turning up here in Loki's head. He's like, ooh, wait a minute. Okay. He knows Shanks. In fact, he seems to be rather familiar with Shanks. All right, I could work with this. It's like, oh, yeah, you mean red-haired Shanks? That coward pirate? Yeah, I guess we were talking about that guy, weren't we? Dude, I love the transition of this scene, okay? We don't even see Luffy go into Gear 4th. It literally is one panel. Luffy's, you know, on the, you know, like on the gorilla's hand, and they're all just hanging out and having a good time. And then Loki shit talks Shanks. And then in the very next panel, Gear 4th Luffy, like, ah, take that back! Ah! You know, just like Kong gun! You know, and he just goes to punch Loki square in the face. And Loki is just like, oh crap! Boom! And he moves his head at the last second. Luffy punches the tree. Takes some chunks out of the tree, too. So, you know, Atom Wood, strongest tree in the world, couldn't even handle a Gear 4th punch from Luffy. Man, Elbaf's really shaping up to be disappointing if you ask me. It's like, no, this is Gear 4th Luffy. I'm pretty sure a Gear 4th Luffy punch would destroy part of the Sunny. And by the way, also, it's important to keep in mind that even after Frankie built the Sunny, he wasn't planning on being the shipwright right away. He was like, you still have to take care of the ship. Even if it's made out of the best material in the world, unless you have a shipwright to manage it, it's still going to get wear and tear and damage, right? And eventually Frankie joined in, okay, so he can fix up the Sunny, of course. But yeah, so Luffy punches the tree, takes a big chunk out of that. Loki just narrowly, like, uses all of his effort to, like, move his head, because that's all he can do. And the humans there are like, hey, Lord Loki, no! And Luffy's just like, hey, how dare you talk about Shanks like that? You want some? Loki's like, hey, I was just kidding. It was a joke. It was a joke, kid. Calm down. Jeez. And Luffy's like, he kind of backs off and he goes back into his base form and he lands. And he's just like, that's not something you joke about, man. I have a certain amount of things you don't joke about. Meat and Shanks. And you definitely don't joke about Shanks having meat. Okay? So he lands, and even the animals are all like breaking out into a cold sweat, like, okay, all right, this guy got pissed, right? So Loki was like a little bit stunned by that, but he's more pissed, if anything, now. He's just like, I can't even move! Don't do that, don't attack me, what's wrong with you? All right? And he starts thinking to himself, like, okay. Like, this is Loki's eternal monologue here. It's just like, oh man, this guy, as soon as he gets me out of these chains, I'm gonna get him to unlock these chains, and then I'm killing this son of a bitch. Alright, like, I'm taking him out, right? Okay? So, he's like, whatever. And Luffy's like, I don't care if you can't move. I don't care. You know, don't make me mad, alright? You don't talk shit about Shanks, alright? You don't know Shanks like I know Shanks, right? And if you keep on talking bad about him, I'm gonna bury you so hard in that tree. I'm gonna punch you so hard into that tree, you're gonna be dead, alright? And so, the humans are like, hey, don't talk back to Master Loki, please. Like, they're not really involved here. Luffy has not even really acknowledged these people yet, okay? But Luffy does continue. He's like, alright, now you mentioned Shanks. Was he here? Why did he come all the way out here? There had to be a reason that he was on Elbaf. Is he still on Elbaf? And Loki, unperturbed, he's like, well, you know, that's not something I can just tell you. Now, maybe if you made it worth my while, maybe I could tell you. And then that's the end of that scene, and that's all we get from Loki and Luffy in this chapter. But my God, that was a beautiful introduction to this character. Loki is the kind of guy, we're already getting a handle for his personality. He is very much a trickster. He is very much a manipulator. He's very much like, all right, how can I convince this pirate guy to go up to the village to get a key and, you know, release me? It's like, all right, you're a pirate. How about I go and destroy the pirate crew for you? Huh, he knows Shanks. Okay, I can work with that. All right, you want to know about Shanks? Well, you got to free me, and then I'll tell you about Shanks. I'll tell you where he is right now. Loki might not know this. He might not have access to this information. Shanks, from what we've seen, you know, he defeated Kid and his crew, and then he left. Maybe he's still here, though. Who knows? But for right now, you know, it's like we don't know. And Loki might not know either, but he knows Luffy is connected to Shanks, because Luffy is the kind of character that wears his emotions on his sleeve, okay? And we've seen that. Just calling Shanks a coward alone was enough for Luffy to go, like, ham on Loki. Like, I'm just gear forth, gonna Kong gun you in the face for saying that shit about Shanks, right? That was all it took. All it took. So Loki kind of has his number. He's a little bit like, intimidated. He's a little bit like put off maybe by Luffy's like brashness, and he is, you know, like, oh, this kid does have talent, you know, with the way he subdued all of the beasts of the forest. But Loki's also like, I can still manipulate Luffy. Okay, so we'll see where that goes. So, cutting back to the rope bridge where Nami, Usopp, Zoro, and Chopper's group is at. Nami, Usopp, Sanji, Chopper. I get everybody that's in that group? Yeah. So they're running on the bridge still. It's a big, giant bridge, so they're going to take a while to get to the top of it. Usopp looks back, and he sees Road running after them. Now, they don't know what Road looks like, because he was dressed as the sun god, but he's smoking from Nami's lightning bolt attack. So it's like, oh, this giant's running after us. I don't recognize him, but he looks like he just got struck by lightning. It's like, oh, yeah, that was probably the guy. That was probably the sun god dude. It's like, oh, shit, he's coming. Oh, wait, 2 more giants are coming up right behind him. It's that warrior lady, so Girth, and then the bigger giant, that's Goldberg, okay? And Goldberg is carrying the Thousand Sunny above his head. He's just like walking across the bridge like, hey, wait! Carrying the Sunny, this massive boat of the Straw Hats, and Goldberg is like lifting it above his head, all right? Giants are really strong. Also, these are the new giant pirates, so I don't think this would be an issue at all for, you know, Goldberg to lift up the Sunny. In comparison to heights, like the average height for a giant, we don't have an official height for Goldberg yet. Although I guess you can maybe extrapolate that with this panel with, like, comparing it to the Sunny, because the Sunny we do know. But at any rate, like 18 meters seems to be like the standard average size for a giant. 12 meters is the shortest you can be for a giant. Dory and Bragi are a little bit taller than that. They're around like 20 meters. I think Bragi's like 21 and Dory's like 22 or 23 meters tall. I'm gonna say Goldberg just because he's more of like a stout kind of fellow. Seems to be more comparable to like Bragi. Maybe he's like approximately Bragi size. Okay, something like that. Very important to mention, though, something I missed the first time I read this. So if you look at this image of Goldberg in his introductory panel way back in the cover story, one, you know, very unique thing you can see about him is he has this shield, right? And the shield has a face, eyes and a mouth, and it's like sticking out its tongue. Now, we don't exactly knew at the time, because this is all we had, what was up with this shield. Is that just like a painted shield that looks like a face? Is it a shield that ate a devil fruit? Is it a homie? Because it looks kind of like, you know, one of Big Mom's homies. So here we see the shield on Goldberg's back along with his club, and the eyes and mouth are closed like it's sleeping. We can see it has a face, but the face is like, you know, like it's asleep. So that shield is sentient, all right? It's not just painted. So either devil fruit, a shield that ate a devil fruit, objects can eat devil fruits, we've seen this, or a homie created by the Soul Fruit, which I'm actually more inclined to believe it's the latter, because Mother Caramel lived on Elbaf for a long time, and she had the Soul powers. And we still do not know exactly what happens if the previous user of the Soul Fruit dies. Do the homies that they created live on? Because we know that Zeus has independence from Big Mom. Zeus is a fragment of Big Mom's soul that has its own sentience and autonomy to the point where he decided to leave Big Mom and hang out with Nami. So literally Zeus is like leaving the person that he was tethered to with a soul. Okay? So they're able to like rebel, all right? And I wonder if it also has something to do with, like, maybe awakening the fruit, because we know that devil fruit effects can definitely linger if you're an awakened user. We've seen that with, like, Raijin Island and stuff like that, and, you know, even Punk Hazard. Like for example, like, Punk Hazard is half cold and half hot because of Aokiji and Akainu's fight. Let's say Akainu were to die, would Punk Hazard, the fire half, go back to normal? No. It's gonna stay like that for a while. I don't know if forever, but it's gonna stay like that for a while, long after Akainu is dead. And I think Raijin Island is sticking around because the previous user of the Goro Goro no Mi is long dead, and it's Eneru now, but the island is still there. Now, I understand those are Logia awakenings, not really the same thing, but I could understand that. I could see, you know, the previous user of the Soul Fruit, Mother Caramel, giving life to a shield. And Goldberg and Road were born at the same time when Mother Caramel and Big Mom and everybody were still on that island. So what if it was a situation where, like, Mother Caramel, because she was a horrible person, but she was presenting herself as a nice, loving person. What if Mother Caramel back in the day was like, oh, the two new giants, Road and Goldberg, oh, well, I'll use my magical powers to give them some gifts. So she took a shield and she endowed it with a soul and made it into a homie and gifted it to Goldberg, and he grew up with this shield, and this is like his closest companion, even after Mother Caramel died. Or at the very least, the Soul Fruit moved from Mother Caramel to Big Mom. It's not the same user as it used to be. Maybe the shield lives on. Who knows? Who knows? That was a bit of a tangent talking about a shield, but I wouldn't have it any other way. All right, so the Straw Hats notice that there's 3 giants coming after them, one of which is hoisting the Sunny. Zoro is like, all right, well, he has the Sunny. I guess I have no choice but to cut him up. I mean, we need the Sunny. I was questioning where the Sunny was. I'm sure Road was keeping it in another room, getting ready to, like, paint it or something like that and add it to the diorama. Anyway, so, they're a little bit split here because they're like, are these giants friends or are they foes? Do they know Dory and Bragi? We shouldn't just outright kill them, you know, because Zoro could definitely kill Road. Like, there's no debate about that. I'm pretty sure Zoro, with one of his techniques, could lop off Road's head. But they're like, well, let's not kill them because they might know Dory and Bragi and we don't want to just kill them immediately. And they're just deciding just to run to the end of the bridge. And so Sanji, though, does say, like, we gotta book it full speed ahead. If they catch us, it's all over. I'm like, you don't know that. I mean, Road sure is coming after you, but you don't know if those other giants are, like, the same level of messed up that Road is, you know, so, but I understand, like, while on the bridge, probably the best thing to do is get to the end of the bridge before they figure out what they're gonna do next. All right, now, they're also, I mean, Sanji's really fast, Nami is riding on Chopper in his walk point, so that's also very fast. Usopp can run like a mile a minute, he's great, and Zoro's also pretty quick, as long as he keeps, okay, Zoro, it's just a bridge. Can Zoro get lost on a straight bridge? I think we all know the answer to that is yes. So I wouldn't be surprised if at one point Zoro just veers off and falls over the bridge and lands right next to Luffy and Loki. I wouldn't be surprised. Keep that in mind. That might actually legitimately happen. Okay, so, we cut away from that scene of the Straw Hats running away from Road, Goldberg, and Gerd, and we cut down to another section of the forest. So we're still in the underworld. We're still in the mountainous, snowy region of not Wano. Damn it! Wano was 2 story arcs ago. Why do I keep saying Wano? Elbaf. Okay, we're in Elbaf now. Wano is over. So Hajrudin and Stansen, the other 2 members of the new giant pirates. Hajrudin, we all know, captain. He was the guy that was there during Dressrosa. And Stansen is the shipwright. He also has a big hammer. And he was the giant the Straw Hats saved at the Saboti Archipelago. He was chained up and locked up with Rayleigh. Okay, so there you go. All right, and they just took out an Elbathian moose. So there's a big giant moose. It kind of looks more like a dinosaur, to be honest with you. It has like jagged teeth. It looks like a moose crossed with like a T-Rex. All right, anyway, Hajrudin and Stansen took this thing down, and he's just letting out a big, mighty, like, yeah, we took out a moose, right? And now I'm sure the Straw Hats are gonna love the meat of this moose. They are our saviors, after all. I want them to have a warm welcome, after all. You can't get a moose like this in the upper forests. So that explains, like, the biggest, baddest monsters are, like, down here in the underland, you know? Okay. There is a line from Stansen here, because they're talking about how the hell they're going to carry this moose out of here, because it's like a really big moose, even for them. And the translations of this vary. Stansen says something like, it's snowing, so there's no sunstone pinders here. It's a word, and I'm trying to, like, even the translator note, I really don't understand. It's like, the kanji is sunstone, and then they use a word that's similar to painter, like painting a picture. And then there's a Norse word, pinda, which means to torture. I don't really know what this is. We're probably going to find out more about this. I'm literally at a loss with this one. I'm just like, I really don't know what Stansen is talking about here. Stansen, what are you saying? You're mentioning, you're using some language I'm not familiar with, okay? I'm sure he's probably saying, like, there usually might be a way for us to get this moose up to the village, but it's snowing, so that thing that could exist isn't here right now. And then Hajrudin is like, don't embarrass me for our saviors, we'll carry it ourselves, kind of thing. And they do. They hoist it up and they carry it out of the forest. We also get some flashbacks, like here's a refresher on Hajrudin. He was the giant at Dressrosa, at Doflamingo. He was caught in the machinations there. Sugar turned him into a toy, and then he was freed, and then he helped everybody win. He defeated Mockvice. And we also get a little panel on the new Giant Warrior Pirates, which we already knew. Hajrudin's the captain, Rhodes the navigator, Stansen's the shipwright, Gerd's the doctor, and Goldberg's the cook, okay? And they are mentioned specifically, they are the generation after Dory and Bragi. They're the hip, new Giant Warrior Pirates. They're not like your dad and your mom's Giant Warrior Pirates, you know? Not like your grandpa's giants. These are the Gen Z pirates. All right. So now we get that, like, well, nice little double-page spread of just seeing Hajrudin again. He seems pretty happy, you know, pretty happy for, despite the fact his birthright was, like, stolen by Loki and everything like that. He seems cool, right? All right. We now cut over to the last scene of the chapter. We are now in the seas outside Elbaf, and we see a giant, like, is that like a serpent shark? It looks like, is that the sea serpent? I don't know. There's a giant serpent behind the Great Eirik that looks like a shark for a head, but it just kind of keeps going like a leviathan. So maybe that is the Jormungandr. I don't know. And just like, oh, we're seeing the Jormungandr. Yeah, we must be close. You know, it's like, yeah, we see the giant serpent. Okay. All right. But anyway, the Giants and the Straw Hats here, like Brooke, Frankie, Jinbei, and Robin's group are just hanging out. And Brooke is actually giving Robin a haircut. Yeah, so Brooke is like, oh, I hope it turned out okay, Robin. I haven't given women a haircut in quite some time. I hope I didn't mess up. I don't have eyes after all. Yo, skull joke, right? So we also see Lilith there, which is really funny. Lilith's reaction is like, ha, you don't have eyes. You don't even have a heart. Man, everything about you, Brooke, is a sin against science. You know, like everything about you is an abomination in biology. Man, it's crazy. You know, I love that line. But yeah, so because Robin is about to be reunited with Saul, and she hasn't seen Saul since she was a little kid, and she's changed her hairstyle since then, she actually asked Brooke to cut her hair. And we see Robin here, and it's in a really nice, like, not a double-page spread, but like a big panel in the page, where we see Robin with her hairstyle she had before the time skip. More specifically, it's more close to her hairstyle when she was 8 years old, when she first met Saul on Ohara, okay? So it's like pre-time skip hairstyle Robin, and I think it works on her, definitely, okay? It's really nice to see that kind of hairstyle again. And Oda, you can tell Oda put a lot of effort into this. It wasn't just like a small little panel like, this is Robin's hairstyle. No, it's like a big panel that you could tell that Oda put a lot of detail into, like, her hair and her bangs and everything like that. And Robin is like, oh no, Brooke, it's perfect, thank you! And all the other people there, like Bonnie is like, oh, it's so cute, Robin, you look great. And then Frankie's like, oh, that really takes me back. And Jinbei's like, oh, yes, it suits you, Robin. Good job, Brooke. And Brooke is like, yeah. Okay, you know what's funny? There was an SBS once on which Straw Hats cut the Straw Hats' hair. because, you know, they're out at sea for a long time. Their hair has to be managed, you know, proper hygiene and whatnot. And it was actually mentioned that the 3 characters that will typically cut the other Straw Hats' hair, or they're the best at it, are Sanji, Usopp, or Robin. Sanji and Usopp are not here right now, and Robin cannot cut her own hair. I mean, she wants to make sure the hairstyle looks really, really good. Although, wait a minute. Robin could totally cut her own hair. She can literally clone herself. Actually, that would, I like the idea that Brooke, I like Robin is nice. Robin is gonna be like, hey, Brooke, you're probably the most dexterous out of all of us. You know, Robin is like, I need somebody to cut my hair, and she's looking at her options. She sees all of the giants, so that's probably a no. She sees, like, Broggy, like, sharpening his axe, like, looks over and sees Dory just, you know, like, hands covered in grease as he's just chowing down on a piece of mutton, like, and Robin is like, yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. Then she looks over at the Straw Hats. You know, you see Frankie with his big meaty fists and just, you know, it's like, you know, like Frankie would probably try to, he's like, oh, you want me to cut your hair, Robin? All right, he pulls out like a chainsaw, like, don't worry, this will be fine. And just like, oh, you can trust me now. And you know, because Frankie does have an intricate, like, he can handle small parts and things. He has the little tiny arms. But I think Frankie would go a little bit too super with it, you know what I mean? He would end up like, he's like, oh man, you know what would look really cool, Robin, if I give you like a mohawk or something, you know, which that would kind of look badass, but at this like punk rock Robin, I think that would work, but I could see why Robin didn't ask Frankie. I'm thinking Jinbei might have been the second choice, and then when it comes to Brooke, Brooke is like, okay, Brooke has nice hair. He has to maintain his afro after all. I'll ask Brooke, but when you actually stop to think about this, Robin could have 100% cut her own hair. She could have made a clone of herself that would know exactly what she wanted and then cut her hair exactly because she already has hair cutting experience. It was mentioned that she cuts hair anyway. So, interesting. But I like the scene with Brooke, and we had a skull joke there, so it's been a while, so I'm okay with that. But that is something I just realized. Like, yeah, she could definitely, she's the one person that can cut her own hair. Yeah, okay. So anyway, all the giants are there, like, oh, yes, you want to see Saul? Oh, man, yeah, he's a cool guy. Well, actually, no, Broggy mentions, oh, okay, so I guess Broggy and Dory would have never met Saul, because they were on, you know, Little Garden dueling while Saul came to the island. Saul mentioned he was not born on Elbaf. He was born somewhere else, and he came to Elbaf later after the incident in O'Hara to seek refuge, okay? And that was only 22 years ago. So, yeah, that wouldn't have been the case there. So, you know, we have Kashi, though. Kashi mentions, or is it Oimo? It's Oimo. It's Oimo. He mentions, oh, yeah, that's the hairstyle you had when you met us at Ennie's Lobby, you know? So they a little bit of a lore thing that kind of ties everything together with continuity. And then the great Eirik sails out of the fog and they see Elbaf properly, okay? They see the giant sword, they see the rainbow bridge, and they mention, it's smooth sailing now. Let's dock at the port and get ourselves some drinks. And they're approaching Elbaf and everybody's shouting and everybody's in high spirits. They haven't found the rest of the crew yet, but they'll be fine. And then we get one, like, last couple of panels of the chapter where we cut to just an ambiguous area in Elbaf. We kind of zoom into the upper canopy, so I'm assuming it's in, at least in the first layer, it's not in the underworld, it's up a little bit higher. And we see a giant. We don't know who the giant is, but we see a giant running around screaming, "This is bad! What's wrong? It's Mr. Saul! He's fallen and can't get up! He activated his life alert! Help, I've fallen and I can't get up." Anybody remember those commercials? They were ubiquitous back in like the 2000s. You know, some old grandma falls down like, "Help, I've fallen and I can't give up. But luckily with life alert," you know, like, okay. So, that's the end of the chapter. That's the end. No break next week. Oda? Oda wouldn't do that to us, would he? Oda would not have Saul die before Robin met him again. Or he wouldn't have Saul die right after Robin meets him again, right? Right? Oda. I'm telling you what, man. Let Robin have the happy ending, please. She's been through so much shit, okay? Just please, give her this, okay? Oh man, I don't know. I think it's gonna be something a little bit intense. Like, it's gonna be maybe a joke. Like Saul, oh no, Saul slipped on a banana peel while he was making a peanut butter jelly and banana sandwich. And we have to help him up, and he's covered in peanut butter or some stupid shit like that. Like, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be okay. Alright, it's gonna be okay. Because Robin is, dude, there's an expression on Robin's face as they're sailing toward Elbaf. We see a panel of her, just like her eyes closed, wind in her hair, and she's just like, I'm gonna be reunited with my close friend that I thought was dead, and I can't wait for this. I can't wait to see him again, right? Oh yeah, you know, Oda wouldn't do that to us. Oda cares, right? He's not gonna do that to Robin, right? Okay, so anyway, that was the chapter, and my god, what a packed chapter it was. Considering it has been a 2-week break, I can understand. Oda wanted to throw a lot of stuff into this one, but yeah. So what do you think about Luffy and Loki and that whole situation there? You know, is Luffy going to take Loki up on his offer? The offer is probably now like, okay, free me, and then I'll tell you about Shanks. I know a couple of things about Shanks, and Luffy's like, okay, but you better not be bullshitting me. No, would I lie? You just did. Yeah, but aside from that, you know, so we'll see where that goes. Are the Straw Hats going to outrun the new giant pirates? Or are they going to catch up with them? And, you know, is maybe like Gerd and Goldberg going to like hold down Road and be like, no, Straw Hats, please. This guy's an asshole. Don't worry about him. He's a weirdo. Anyway, you know, we're friends. We know Hajrudin. You know, it's cool. We're allies, right? Here's your ship. You know, might be something like that. And then the whole situation with Saul and then Robin's group. So we have 3 groups right now. We have Robin's group, we have Sanji's group, and then we have Luffy just by himself. So the Straw Hats are going to be in different locations. Luffy's in the Underland, the Underworld, and it looks like Robin's group is just going to head up to the upper canopy there, which is the same place that Sanji's group is heading, so they're probably going to rendezvous there, and then they'll probably have to pick up Luffy later, because Luffy eventually has to go up to the village to get the key anyway, because they're not going to be, Luffy can't break the chains, they're Sea Prism, okay? Even with Gear 5th, there's limitations and stuff, right? So they're all going to have to rendezvous in that village in the upper canopy, and also Hajrudin and Stansen are taking that moose up to the upper canopy too. So, you know, everybody's going to meet together in the village. I'm sure it'll be fine. There might be some confusion about Road, and there might be some confusion about Luffy stealing a key, but other than that, and by the way, the key to Loki's shackles are not going to just be in a random house in the village. That's going to be in, like, that giant fortress we saw is probably where the key to Loki's cuffs are. I don't even know why they would have a key. You'd think they would melt down that shit immediately, right? They'd have the key to the cuffs, and they'd be like, all right, we need to get rid of this key. All right, maybe it's a Karyoseki key. Maybe they can't destroy it. It's a Sea Prism key for a Sea Prism lock on Sea Prism chains, so they can't destroy it. And it's like, okay, we could throw it away, but that's not a good thing to do. We can't just throw it into the ocean for anybody to find this. So I guess they would have to protect it if they couldn't physically destroy it, right? Because otherwise, if you have a giant locked up that's set to destroy the world, why wouldn't you destroy the key so he can never be unlocked? You know what I mean? That seems like a dumb idea to keep that thing around, right? But anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Good to be back. Good to be back at Elbaf proper. And I'm going to go edit this. All right, you guys have a good one. Let me know down below, yay or nay, on Robin's new hairstyle, which is her old hairstyle, but it's her new hairstyle. And if Oda's really going to do the thing and pull the carpet out from under us and just kill Saul right before Robin gets to reunite with him. We'll see where this one goes. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking signing out. Ugh!